financial access in the country, the number of people that are excluded from banking institutions in Nigeria, they are up to 41.6% of the population, which is the highest in Africa and one of the highest in the world as well. And the reasons for this are not so far-fetched. The number one reason seems to be low income level of the average Nigerian. We have a very high level of poverty prevalence, up to 50 to 70%, depending on who you talk to. And for people who have low income, the priority for them isn't saving or accessing credit. It is just survival. So they don't demand for so much of financial services, and that is the reason why you will see that the number of bank branches in rural areas are quite low, because it makes no economic sense to establish bank branches there. So I guess for us, what we think should be done is that rather than waiting for the economy to get better and to reduce poverty level, we probably need to have alternative ways of reaching this low-income population so that they're no longer excluded from financial services. And we could take a lesson, or rather take some lessons from some other sub-Saharan African countries like Kenya and like even Ghana and Ghana as well, who have developed alternative banking platforms such as mobile money operation, to reach a large segment of the population. In Kenya today, M-Pesa, they have access to the population as much as traditional banks, and this is the way to go in Nigeria as well.
Again, hasn't the banks done enough in terms of, I remember the days of you need 200,000 to open 100,000, 150,000 naira to open an account in a bank. And we even tell you to take your money away to the next bank because we are a blue-collar bank here. We don't want your money. But now they say, look, without even a dime, you can just open the account and we can just do that. Isn't that enough to expand what you call the deposit base, the financial access base? Maybe I should be asking Joshua this question when it comes into this, but go ahead.
It is not enough, because banking is about financial intermediation. It's about, mobilizing deposits from people and taking it to, grant loans to other people. But if you look at the level of credit to the private sector as a percentage of GDP, it is quite low in Nigeria. It is less than 30%, 20% in fact, in full year 2016. If you compare that to South Africa, South Africa has over 140% of credit to private sector as a percent of GDP. In Sub-Saharan Africa, the ratio is 75%. So banks are doing decently well, but we have barely scratched the surface in terms of full financial intermediation. And probably the reason why we have this level of low level of credit to private sector of GDP is because our collateral laws still need to be revised. Until recently, when we passed the movable asset collateral bill by the presidency, if you have movable assets, right, you cannot use it to obtain a loan from banks. And for most of the SMEs in Nigeria, Nigeria has a very large informal sector. Most are SMEs. They do not have, they do not have fixed assets to obtain loans from financial institutions. So, in terms of getting to the SMEs, getting to the low-income population, we need to start looking at ways, to relax some of the collateral laws, ways to also reduce the tight monetary policy environments as well, so that we can, have more SMEs being able to access loans at affordable rates, and also look at ways to reach the depositors in the rural areas by leveraging of technology, such as mobile money operation.
The sentiment and the psychology here in Nigeria, and I want a yes or no if you share, that Nigerian banks are considered as a cheerful taker, but a reluctant giver.
Well, that wouldn't be so far-fetched.
But that's what the credit to private sector looks to show. Because folks want to deposit money, and you take it very quickly and easy. But again, they'll come back the next day or the next hour, and they say, may I have a loan, a bit of a credit? And you say, well, I get this about a sheaf of papers to fill, and then all the other things that go with it. So you think that's a problem?
It is a problem, but I would say the problem goes two ways. Number one, we need to look at the level of money supply to GDP, because what banks lend out is the deposit they gather from the depositors based in the country. And what they put deposits in the country depends on the money supply in the economy as well. Because we have a very tight monetary policy environment, the level of money supply in the economy is very low. M2 as a ratio of GDP is less than 25%. So that means that the money even available for banks to lend is quite constrained. So I guess where we have to start fixing the problem has to be from the monetary policy framework itself. Why do we have such a tight monetary policy regime in Nigeria? Do we need to start giving up controls on some of the FX management that we have in the country so that the central bank will be able to, lower interest rates and improve the level of money supply in the economy? So those are the questions for the monetary policy authorities to ask. And then for the regulators as well, they need to start looking at ways to ensure that financial access reaches the people in the rural areas, low-income population, SME business owners as well.
In other words, but let's go, where do we take the second quarter GDP moving forward for financial assets, whether it's stocks, bonds, or treasuries?
We expect to see sustained growth. If you look at the PMI results that also came out earlier this week, I suppose, that's the August PMI data, you will see that both non-manufacturing, which is services essentially, and manufacturing PMI, improved. They expanded, in the month of August. So that shows that sentiment is still positive in both sectors, and we should expect growth to continue in the short to medium term. At least if we continue to see the central bank, maintaining the current FX policy, of flexible exchange rate regime.
Okay, Omotola, we'll get a few people who are interested in the banking story. Dr. Adewoyin Koka, who is on Twitter, says to really capture the unbanked, we have to do something about unemployment, underemployment, and capacity development. Definitely,
because the first problem of low financial access, the first challenge of low financial access is the fact that we have low-income population. And for you to improve the number of people who are living above the poverty line, you need to also improve employment rates in the economy.
Very interesting. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Have a great day for taking the GDP to Broad Street for us.
Thank you.
Omotola Bimbala, investment analyst at AfroInvest. When we come back, the Chief Operations and Information Officer from Fidelity Bank is talking to us about how did we bank ourselves into recession and banked out of recession. We're going to talk about the banking sector more. Now we need to hear from the guys who are what you call the financial intermediators.